Some stories hide in the spaces between whispers and the dark shadows of an ordinary day. If you stick around until the end, you'll uncover truths that reach far beyond what's visible. Truths wrapped in silence and dread. Tonight, what you're about to hear might feel like a secret best kept locked away, but I promise there's a reason to listen all the way through. Before anything else, if you want to journey down this creepy path with me, hit that subscribe button now and ring the bell so you never miss a story that creeps up behind you when you least expect it. Your support means everything, and it's how this channel keeps breathing life into these shadows of terror. The tale begins 2 weeks ago at a party where, hidden away from the crowd, I swiped a few beers and shared them with Lucy Sitkins beneath the bough of an old low-hanging tree, our voices soft so no one passing by could catch us. As we whispered, our faces inched closer, the world shrinking down to just us and that night. There was a moment I thought she might rest her head on my shoulder while she spoke of dreams to be a vet, and my heart hammered as I considered gently wrapping my arm around her waist. That moment shattered when her father, Larry, suddenly emerged before everyone, forcing a beer can down his throat in a terrifying public display. I didn't see the act itself, just the horrified cries that ripped through the party and left us both frozen under those branches. By the time we returned, the adults were escorting kids away, and the piercing wails of approaching ambulances filled the air. Dad was there, his face dark and frightened, focused only on telling me to take my little sister home. In that grim intensity, thoughts of Lucy vanished, replaced by the chilling scent of beer lingering on her breath. I tried desperately to recall if she'd eaten from the barbecue, sometimes believing she had, other times doubting it, the memory flickering like a candle in a gust. It didn't matter, though. I knew I'd never see her again. The next day at school, a heavy unease settled as whispers swirled about the impossible suicide of Larry Sitkins, tales that pierced deeper than the shock. At school gates, older kids spun twisted rumors. Larry had swallowed a beer can whole, said to be like a boa constrictor choking on an egg. Others claimed he praised dark forces before slitting his throat, or that he'd fallen drunk and chugging, or even caught the can mid-air only to be punched mid-drink. These stories, wild and fragmented, were attempts to grasp the unthinkable truth behind the horror. Larry was a regular guy, a landscaper who cracked lame jokes at kids' parties, unremarkable except for the shadow he now cast. Then, that same day, Mr. Straw ended his life in front of the cheerleaders, perching his neck between metal bleachers and activating the mechanism that crushed him like a cold mechanical death. The scene was chaos with ambulance sirens and desperate crying, but his face, slack-jawed, empty, haunted me more than anything. Later, I learned Larry had died in a similar vacant stupor, forcing the can down his throat like an act beyond human comprehension. There were others, too. People who resembled Larry before their ends. A barista searing half her arm with a coffee machine while locked in eye contact with a customer. A doctor injecting air into his own heart with a biopsy needle. Or others shooting limbs off with rifles. None aimed at the head. The acts were riddled with vacant, hollow expressions, devoid of thought or pain. The local school shut down the day after, a grim symbol of the burgeoning panic, with national forces soon to arrive. My parents left for a town meeting early that morning, leaving me at Grandma's while they vanished into the storm of uncertainty. The day was suffocating with silence and the ghost of what had ripped through the town. I wandered, restless and heavy, into the woods beyond farmers' fields, grappling with the image of Mr. Straw's bloated, lifeless face, the way he looked so bored in death, still wearing his worn red shorts. The memory echoed my confusion and fear at death's suddenness, stirring a mix of anger and sorrow. I persisted through the humid heat, my clothes soaked, aching limbs forcing my mind to focus on pain over terror. I found myself at the train tracks, near a dark tunnel shrouded in vines, the air cold and inviting respite. The train's horn blared as it barreled past, illuminating a figure lying face down on the rails, two pale hands stretched toward the unknown. The corpse was missing its legs, its blood dried to a sickly brown, crushed under countless passing trains, mistaken for debris. The sight shattered me. Sob racks choked through my throat as I grappled with helplessness and the cruel unfairness of it all. I longed to be a child again, one free from responsibility and horror. As I trembled, the shuffle echoed behind me from the tunnel. A trembling horror crept up my spine. Something moved, a slow, broken locomotion, dragging over gravel and litter, growing nearer with each breath. Instinct screamed what I already knew. This wasn't human, wasn't alive, but something hauntingly unnatural. When it crawled into the light, the creature from the tracks revealed itself. A man without legs dragging a torso hacked apart, one arm dislocated, wide empty eyes like Mr. Straw's. Alive? No. This was a walking corpse, a monster, defying reason. I ran screaming into the woods, heart hammering and lungs burning until collapse found me in a hollow tree. Darkness swallowed me. Later, under the cloak of night, I staggered home only to find chaos in my own house. Dad was sick, screaming and thrashing while Grandma and Mom desperately tried to restrain him. Blood and tears mixed with cries as Grandma wrestled a gun from his hands and Mom wielded a knife, trying desperately to save him. The sharp snap of gunfire shattered windows and sanity alike, forcing me to shield my sister and retreat. The sound of destruction and terror blurred past, but despite the horror, Dad's vacant eyes pierced my soul, silent and empty. During the struggle, his trigger finger was severed, the gun knocked away, ropes eventually binding his arms. Their combined effort held back the man I once knew as he spiraled into something unrecognizable. Before dawn, government men clad in biohazard suits arrived to take him, their muted voices cold and unyielding. Mom locked me inside as they departed, her shouts a fragile veneer over mounting fear. The house settled into uneasy quiet, each moment stretching with dread. Conversations became guarded and clipped. Mom's anxiety gnawed on us, veiled behind mundane questions and forced smiles. When she asked if Dad had handled the meat during a recent hunting trip, a chill clutched my stomach. The inference too clear to ignore. Dad had brought deer home not long ago, hunting trips growing stranger after one fateful day, where a deer twisted on two legs, shambling toward us despite bullet wounds. It was not the natural world I'd known, but something twisted and sick. Dad claimed the deer were fine, that whatever it was couldn't spread to humans. But his voice wavered. Sitting in bed, the dread bubbled over. Had the hunted deer carried this sickness? And had Dad unwittingly fed it to the town? The fear of contagion was a living thing, wrapping tighter with every thought. Desperate for answers, I ventured into the shed late at night, seeking the deer in the freezer, hoping for confirmation to deny the creeping paranoia. Dark shadows embraced me as I cracked open the freezer's icy tomb, only to find a frost-encrusted pile of meat with a single visible head. Fevered fingers searched for a second corpse, but found none. My hope shattered, replaced by cold nausea. Dad's hunting had fed the town's nightmare. As I tried to leave, The freezer door rattled violently, shadows dancing with sudden light revealing snarling fur and jagged teeth. The lid crashed open, and from the abyss lurched a monstrous abomination. Part frozen carcass, part nightmare, limbs twisted unnaturally, eyes rotten and glassy, skin rippling like living tissue stitched back from death. It raised a shattered face in a silent scream as I backed away, heart pounding and voice breaking in terror. This was no predator of nature, but a slaughterer focused on hate and destruction. It thrashed with misjointed limbs, drawing ever closer, its rage palpable and alive so long after death. I fled, but fate blocked me. I stumbled back into Dad, cold and vacant, a living undead nightmare gripping me in an unyielding hold. My scream tore through the night as neighbors emerged, shocked screams punctuating the darkness. Mom shouted, looming with a broken rake, striking the creature's face. The monster's shriek was cut short moments before an explosion shattered night's silence and the abomination's skull. Amidst the chaos, Dad's whispered voice echoed again and again. "It's in us, and it wants us," a chant of despair and warning. Time has since emptied him. Visits to the hospital a grim reminder of what was lost. Mom and my sister remain uninfected, but I feel the creeping sickness beneath my skin, slow and relentless. The terrifying voice inside is a corrupted whisper, urging surrender, a poisoned book of words dripping oil, demanding control. Fighting only feeds it, but resistance is a dwindling hope. My dad's end haunts my soul, a fate worse than death. I write this because the infection isn't finished, nestled deep in the ancient soil and wildlife dying quietly outside town. It learns, tastes, and waits. I fear the moment when it will claim me fully, when horror will leap from the shadows into the world again. Remember my story if you dare, for the darkness is hungry, and it's getting closer every day.